So last but not least, Taylor Kane. So we'll be bringing in perspective of the young carriers. I think another important topic that we've not really had any of the Luke to speak on. So thank you.
Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Taylor Kane. I'm going to let you know in advance I will be referencing my notes, unlike everyone else, just because I have a couple direct quotes and statistics. So I'm 17, I'm an ALD carrier from New Jersey. My dad was diagnosed with ALD when I was 3 years old and he passed away when I was 5. Before he died, my dad started a foundation called Run for ALD to raise awareness of ALD and money for ALD research. That foundation, in which I am now extremely involved, is still going strong 14 years later. And to this day, we've donated over $200,000 to the Kennedy Krieger Institute for ALD research, some of which was used to fund the development of the ALD newborn screening test. In 2012, after the test was developed, I wrote to the president of the New Jersey Senate and asked him to support a bill sponsoring ALD newborn screening, which he did. I later testified in support of the bill for the New Jersey Assembly and the New Jersey Senate, and even personally spoke to Governor Chris Christie. Christie signed the bill into law in 2013, and New Jersey should actually start screening in the very near future. Right now, we're looking at the spring of 2016. I also spoke at the Secretary's Advisory Committee meeting in D.C. in support of putting ALD on the RUS back in 2012. Anyway, I've known that I was a carrier of ALD since I was very young. In my family, in addition to my dad, my Uncle Jimmy, who is my dad's identical twin brother, died of ALD shortly after my dad. Now we know that my dad's sister was a carrier of ALD, and his other brother had the Addison's-only version of ALD. I have a sister who is also a young ALD carrier, and 3 female cousins in their early 20s who are carriers. So, as I got older, I realized more and more that there are not many resources out there for teenagers or a young woman who, like me, found that they were ALD carriers at a young age and lived day to day with that knowledge. That can be really scary and lonely. The quote on the screen was written by a member of the YAC group, which I'll talk about later. I included it because I thought it was a great description of how it feels to be a young ALD carrier. Most of us don't know anyone else our age who's an ALD carrier, so there really isn't anyone we can talk to who understands or feels what it means to be a carrier. There really isn't much medical information out there about ALD carriers, and our primary doctors may know little or nothing about ALD. We know there's a pretty good chance we will develop physical symptoms at some point, but we don't know when, what the symptoms will be, and whether they will be minor or debilitating. Most of us have to deal with the fact that we learned we were a carrier only after another male relative, maybe a father, a brother, a cousin, died from ALD, so that's another emotional issue. We also all worry whether we should have children of our own, or more commonly, whether insurance will cover the huge expense of IVF and PGD, should we decide to go that route. There are really so many unique issues that young ALD carriers face. The topic of young ALD carriers is particularly relevant now with the addition of ALD to RUS because more and more states will begin screening for ALD. While boys will be identified in time for life-saving treatment, girls will also be identified as carriers. So this raises a lot of questions for the states and the parents. What will the states tell a newborn girl's parents after a positive ALD screen? I don't know this to be 100% accurate, but members of my group have told me that in New York, parents of newborn girl carriers are told that females have little risk of having future health issues, and the parents are given no real protocol to follow. They don't know for sure whether or how often their daughters need to be monitored, or whether they should be put on a Lorenzo's oil diet or another low-fat diet, or whether they should take any other type of preventative measures. There's also the issue of what happens when the parents simply ignore the information or lose track of the fact that their newborn daughters are carriers as the years go by, and neglect to inform them of their carrier status. There are even more important questions for parents who are diligent. When should they tell their daughter she's a carrier? Will that knowledge ruin her childhood? Should they start a fund so she will be able to afford IVF and PGD and have her own children one day? These questions and others will be coming up more and more as more female carriers are identified through newborn screening. Last year, I started a support group called Y.A.C, which is short for Young ALD Carriers, for teenage girls and carriers under age 25. There's a couple ways that people participate. First, there's a closed Facebook group which has around 50 members where a lot of carrier issues are discussed. We also have some group members who participate through the Run for ALD website and others by email who want to send updates and other information. We have members from the US, the United Kingdom, Spain, Germany, South Africa, and other countries. Most of the members are in their 20s. I think we have a few over 25, but we also have members in the teens like me. Most of us found out we were carriers when other members in our family were diagnosed, like a brother or father, but a few members didn't find out until they had a son who was diagnosed with ALD. The purpose of the group is to provide emotional support, up-to-date medical information. There are discussions about reproductive options, physical symptoms, and also advocacy efforts. So anyway, I thought that it might help to let the medical community and other ALD advocates know what young ALD carriers themselves actually felt about some of these issues. So I sent out a survey which allowed the members of the group to respond anonymously and ask them about a variety of issues. Many of them responded, and the results were very interesting. So I wanted to give you an overview of the results with the understanding that this is obviously not a scientific survey, so how this particular group of young ALD carriers feels may not be representative of all young ALD carriers. Group members were asked when and how they learned they were ALD carriers and how they felt upon learning they were carriers. In response to these questions, 55% of members who responded to the survey stated that they found out they were ALD carriers in their mid to late teens as a result of male relatives, such as fathers, brothers, or uncles being diagnosed with ALD. 18% said they were told by their parents as preteens, also as a result of the diagnosis of other male family members. 27% stated that they did not learn they were carriers until their sons were diagnosed with ALD. 100% of those responding indicated that they felt some degree of fear, worry, or sadness when they learned they were carriers. Although the degree of fear or sadness depended to a large extent on their age and circumstance surrounding the revelation. In general, those who did not learn that they were carriers until after discovering that their sons were affected were much more sad and anxious, describing themselves as being devastated and feeling awful. Group members who found out the earliest, for example, as preteens, were generally the least worried or sad at the revelation, one explaining, "I was not that scared because childbirth was still far away." When asked how they feel now about being an ALD carrier, 82% of the participants indicated that they feel better, many stating that they felt okay, less afraid, less sad, and even hopeful. Generally because they were reassured by learning that reproductive options exist. The 18% who stated that they do not feel better were those members who gave birth to affected sons before learning they were carriers and who indicated that they continue to feel awful because they regret not knowing of their status before having children. When asked what they believe is the optimal age for a girl to be told she is a carrier, 100% of members felt that girls should be told before the age of 18. The vast majority, 64%, felt that girls should be told as a preteen or a young teen, with the remaining 36% believing that the girl should be told as a mid to older teen, ages 15 to 18. Several members who found out in their mid to late teens stated they wished they had found out even younger, one stating that she wished she had been told as a young teenager. In quotes, "So the experience was normalized and treated as a revelatory thing, which would damage my experience of treated less as a revelatory thing, which would damage my experience of life." Another respondent, who learned that she was a carrier at the age of 16 through her own online diligent research rather than by her parents, stated that she felt angry, crushed, and deceived by the fact that her parents had hid her carrier status from her and told her and did not tell her that she was a carrier by that age. None of the respondents indicated that they felt that they learned of their carrier status at too early an age. Group members were asked if they felt they had any physical symptoms as a result of being an ALD carrier and if they were worried about developing symptoms in the future. As to worrying about developing symptoms, over 90% of group members admitted that they worry. The degree of worry ranged from mild to extreme. Some respondents indicated that they have older female relatives, such as mothers and aunts, who have AMN symptoms. Those responding generally did not know whether there was anything they could do now to stave off the development of symptoms. 55% indicated that they already have physical symptoms, which may be related to ALD, including tingling sensation and or pain in the extremities, bladder problems, memory problems, fatigue, and neck and back pain. The majority of the members who reported these physical symptoms stated that they were uncertain as to whether their symptoms were related to ALD. When asked about their future plans for having children, 87% of the members indicated that they hoped to use IVF or PGD. 13% stated that they would either not have children or adopt. The overwhelming majority knew that IVF PGD is very expensive and may not be covered by insurance, although few had specifically researched the cost or coverage possibilities, probably because having children was not in their immediate future. Many indicated that they were extremely worried that their insurance would not cover IVF or PGD and that they would not be able to afford it, noting that the prospect was very scary and indicating that they may have to borrow from family members. Group members were asked whether they felt they had access to sufficient up-to-date medical information and studies about ALD and ALD carriers. The answer to this question varied greatly. 55% felt that they do have access to sufficient medical information, explaining either 1, they found a good ALD specialist, 2, they live near large cities with major hospitals, or 3, they are satisfied with the information they find on the internet or in online ALD support groups. 45% feel that they do not have access to sufficient up-to-date medical information about ALD, citing the gaps and inconsistencies in information provided on the internet and the lack of doctors in their area familiar with ALD. Finally, when asked whether they feel that being a member of a young ALD carrier support group is beneficial to them, all respondents stated yes. Some explained that it helps them feel connected to others in the same situation. Others responded that it provides positive emotional support or enables them to learn all their options, not just what their family tells them. All of the respondents indicated that they are currently or are interested in becoming advocates for ALD, either raising awareness of ALD, ALD newborn screening, or ensuring that carriers have insurance coverage and or can afford IVF and PGD. So, in sum, on my behalf, myself and other ALD carriers, I'd like to say that with newborn screening become a reality in more states, there's going to be a lot more of us soon. States are going to need to know what to tell parents. Parents are going to need to know what, when, and how to tell their girls. These new young ALD carriers are going to need support. Like us, they will need more information about carrier symptoms and possible preventative measures. They will also need to be assured that there will be insurance coverage or at least affordable IVF PGD when they have children. So thank you for listening. And I was going to say if you want to join YAC, but I don't think anyone here is under 25. Or if you know someone who could benefit by joining, or if you just want information, you can reach us on Facebook, on my Run for ALD website, or by email. Thank you.
That was a what a way to end the day. So thanks so much, Taylor. I think we want to have that power in our community. So we may not be 25 anymore, but please accept us into your community so that we can harness some of that energy. I'm reminded of the Gorilla Girls from back in the day when I was in art school. I don't know if anybody knows the Gorilla Girls. They're a historic group from the 90s. But Brian, what do we do with this wonderful power? And I think Remember the Girls is such a nice slogan. Is there Facebook connections? Are there ways we can get their voice further?
Absolutely. Taylor, I'd like to talk with you about your organization's social media presence, and we can start pooling some resources and posting some things together and really work together and kind of create some issues that are important in particular to your group that you've identified today, and we can use ALD Connect to get that out there as well. So I look forward to working with you.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. You're 25, right? Or none less.
I think it might say that on my license. I only take issue with one thing, and that's when you said this was not a scientific study, because your questions were well crafted, your results, were well quantified, and if you had them up in a chart, I think it definitely qualifies as scientific. So I think you did a great job, and my shameless plug is that Work Group 4 can always use someone who can write a good query and can write a good questionnaire. So, and yeah, I'm sure you have no free time, but if you're ever interested,
Yes.
you are always welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.